guys? Miguel here, Vigatech, and this is the Galaxy Fold. For design, starting with it folded, we get Gorilla Glass protection atop the front and back glass panels, stainless steel for the frame as well as the hinge. Situated at the back is the main triple camera setup with its LED flash right below it. In front, we have the 4.6-inch cover display, the speaker grills above it with a front-facing camera to its right. Unfolding the fold, and we are blessed with its beautiful 7.3-inch panel that takes media consumption to another level. More on that later. Around the display, we get these 3D bezels, I'm calling it. The original Fold didn't have them, and reviewers sent review units of those peeled off this protective film thinking it was a screen protector. We all know what happened next. In addition, Samsung also added these T-caps at the top and bottom of the spine to prevent debris from getting into the space between the display and hinge. At the top right of the unfolded display, we get a notch that houses the front-facing dual camera setup, as well as the sensors. For buttons and ports, starting up top, we can find one of two stereo speakers as well as a noise-cancelling mic for loudspeaker. On the left is the SIM card tray, no dedicated microSD card slot for expandable storage here. Situated on the right is the volume rocker, followed by the power button and fingerprint sensor. Lastly, at the bottom is 2 out of 2 stereo speakers, a USB Type-C port, and a mic for regular calls. Okay, so overall, the Galaxy Fold's design is an engineering marvel. It's the first in-foldable smartphone in the world, and as great as that sounds, I believe there are still a few things they can improve on, like the fingerprint scanner. I am not a fan of the placement. I thought the swipe on the scanner to pull down the notification panel feature was something I'd use a lot, but I just ended up turning it off as I kept accidentally swiping down on it when rotating to landscape or just generally finding a more comfortable way to hold the device. I also had a hard time using the scanner as an unlocking method. Being left-handed meant I'd had to use my index finger, which just felt kinda awkward. And since they placed the scanner on the right side, couldn't Samsung just double it as the power button? Next is the notch. I generally just want to see this smaller, if not gone, in the next iterations to come. And last but not the least, the cover display. It needs to be bigger. Enough said. For display, the Galaxy Fold features a 4.6-inch HD Plus Super AMOLED panel as the cover display, and unfolding the device, we get Samsung's proof of concept, the 7.3-inch foldable dynamic AMOLED display. It features a resolution of 2152 by 1536 with a pixel density of 362 pixels per inch. And it's awesome! For most things. When it comes to multitasking, utilizing 3 apps at the same time, it just makes sense. When messaging or generally typing, starting from the cover display to quickly deciding you need more screen real estate and switching to the main display, for watching movies and shows on Netflix and checking out the latest Yugatech video on YouTube, it's spectacular. But when it came to specific apps that haven't updated to accommodate this aspect ratio, it kinda sucks. I thought I'd complain specifically about Call of Duty Mobile, about how much harder it is on the Fold due to the virtual controls being pushed more to the side, as well as having this notch to deal with if you don't want to cover the stereo speakers. But I'm pretty sure I'm just used to a smaller display because I had a friend shut me up when winning 3 games straight. So let's move on to those speakers I just mentioned. First of all, it's a stereo setup which I really love. They get loud, and with Atmos switched on, it just gives whatever media you're watching or listening to a little more oomph. A little more low end would be nice, but of course it's forgiven. At the end of the day, these are smartphone speakers we're talking about. Moving on to performance. Under the panels of the Galaxy Fold, it utilizes a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset paired with an Adreno 640 GPU. It gets 12 gigs of RAM with 512 gigs of internal storage. On the software front, out of the box, it gets Android 9 Pie skinned with OneUI 1.5 on top. Ever since its introduction, I've always found OneUI to be great, but not without its little bugs, of course. The same can be said for this device. The 3-window split screen for multitasking has been really useful for my productivity tasks, though I do wish there were different ways to split the screen, like a horizontal split maybe? And for the keyboard, I have an unpopular opinion. Yes, I did get used to the split keyboard from Samsung, but I still like using Gboard on here. I don't know what it is, I guess I have long thumbs or something. I really just didn't have a hard time with it. For gaming, all I did was play a lot of Call of Duty Mobile on here. It's basically the only game I play right now, apart from the occasional Clash Royale to keep the strategy brain in practice. And you heard me talk about it earlier. The first time I launched the game, I was really excited, but after losing 5 sniper-only matches straight, I just had to switch back to my daily to get those L's back. Ever since then, I didn't think it was possible to win on the Fold till a friend of mine shut me up. So really, it's just about getting used to the form factor. For MOBAs like Mobile Legend, this phone is eye candy. Alright, for those of you interested in numbers, flashing the benchmarks onto your screens now. For security, the Fold gets fingerprint and optical face unlock. As I mentioned earlier, the fingerprint scanner was something I didn't really use a lot. If you guys weren't listening, I wasn't a fan of the placement, though when I did use it for unlocking, it was responsive and very quick. So what I really depended on was the face unlock, and I know it being optical and all, it isn't the most secure, but that didn't really bother me. I'd lift the device and the moment it'd see my face, no problem. I unfold the device, it sees my face, again, no problem. It is worth mentioning that sometimes it takes longer to recognize my face, but that's because of varying lighting conditions, so no biggie. For battery, providing power to the Fold is a 4380 mAh cell. There's actually two of them split on each half to keep this device as thin as possible. It features 15-watt fast charging support that's wired and wireless, and we get reverse wireless charging as well, since users who buy the Fold will be happy to see they get some Galaxy Buds in the box as well. Wired charging took around an hour from 0 to 100 and around 2 hours wirelessly. In our standard video loop test, which entails the device's display and audio set to 50%, airplane mode turned on, and with headphones plugged in, the Fold gave us a total of 19 hours and 10 minutes of playback. For cameras, the Fold actually has 6. The triple camera setup at the rear composed of a 12-megapixel variable aperture main shooter, a 12-megapixel telephoto, and a 16-megapixel ultrawide. In the cover display, there's a 10-megapixel selfie shooter identical to one of the sensors when unfolded. That's the same 10-megapixel selfie shooter as well as an 8-megapixel depth sensor. Checking out some samples now, all the photos you see before you now were taken in the default photo mode. We decided to leave AI Scene Optimizer on for some of the sample shots this time to see how aggressive the processing can be. So bear with us when it comes to the saturation of some photos. Without a doubt, the post-processing on this device tends to lean towards a cooler white balance with a bump in contrast. Sharpness is also up, but not where I find it to be too much. Dynamic range is also superb on these cameras, whether it be the main sensor, telephoto, or ultrawide. Where the AI Scene Optimizer becomes really obvious is usually where the sky looks really blue. It can look very unnatural, and if users aren't into that, they can always turn the scene recognizer off. For portrait mode, subject background separation is very good, whether it be a person or object as the subject. We also get the option to shoot with the main sensor or the telephoto, something I appreciate very much. For portrait selfies, the same can be said. Subject background separation is very good and get even better in more ample lighting conditions. Dynamic range is fantastic on this mode as well. For regular selfies, they look just as fantastic as the rear. And yes, the quality of selfies taken with the Fold folded and unfolded are the same. I checked. The 10-megapixel sensor can handle most lighting conditions with ease. It has the hardest time with subjects lit by harsh backlight, which is forgivable. For night mode, let me take this time to say that Samsung's night mode has really improved ever since the start of the year. It overall brightens and evenly exposes the image, whether it be indoors or outdoors, and yeah, it still isn't as good as something from a P30, but I believe it has what it takes to compete with the pixels. For video, the Fold can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second. If you guys wanted some 24p action, of course, you can download Filmic Pro for that. Having a bigger 7.3-inch footprint also allows for better handheld stabilization. In a general sense, video quality appears sharp with accurate colors. As for live focus video, or basically portrait mode video for those of you who don't know, it still sucks. I mean, just check out our sample. Now, before we wrap this review up, we all know that this device is gonna cost you a pretty expensive penny. To be exact, that penny is gonna have to be worth 109,990 pesos. And woo boy, there goes college tuition for 2 terms. Does that mean that this device is for the elite? I wouldn't exactly say so. I mean, it's definitely not for everybody, but I don't necessarily think it's directed just for the 1%. When I think of the Fold, it's Samsung's payoff after years of teasing flexible displays to eventually a foldable one. It's a proof of concept, and even more, it's the first of its kind. Of course this thing's gonna cost you! Will we see more foldable phones from Samsung in the future? You bet your ass we will. Will they be cheaper? I believe so. So for those of you who want a smartphone of this form factor but can't afford this one, you guys are going to have to wait a bit. But for those of you fortunate enough to afford this, keep in mind you're purchasing a pretty great Gen 1 product that can handle virtually anything you throw at it. It's one of the best media consumption devices you can buy today. You're getting a very good foray of camera sensors, and when it comes to productivity tasks, this thing is the best substitute for a laptop. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to say, which I almost forgot, was I wish this thing had S Pen support. Like if Samsung could make that possible with great pressure sensitivity, I think that device, that Galaxy Fold Pro would definitely be every graphic illustrator's favorite portable tablet. So yeah, that's the Galaxy Fold, guys. Let us know how you feel about the Galaxy Fold in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell icon so you get notified of future uploads. Be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see you in the next one.